Hello dear students, this is Vishal sir from Ikra High School. Today we are going to study chapter 3 Atoms and Molecules from standard 9 NCERT syllabus. Let's continue reading our chapter. Ancient Indian and Greek philosophers have always wondered about the unknown and unseen form of matter. The idea of divisibility of matter was considered long back around 500 BC in India. An Indian philosopher Maharishi Kannad postulated that if we go on dividing matter, we shall get smaller and smaller particles. Ultimately, a stage will come when we shall come across the smallest particle beyond which further division will not be possible. He named these particles Parmanu. Another Indian philosopher, Paduka Katayama, elaborated this doctrine and said that these particles normally exist in a combined form which gives us various forms of matter. So dear students, it was from the very beginning that Indian and Greek philosopher, these are not called scientists, they are philosophers, they have certain thinking and that thinking should be proved after some time. So they had a thinking that the matter, what we had studied in chapter 2, is composed of smaller particles and those particles are very small and it cannot be divided further, which they called Parmanu. The same theory was elaborated in Greek philosophers Democritus and Lucifus. They also suggested that if we go on dividing matter, a stage will come when particles obtained cannot be divided further. And here Democritus called these indivisible particles as atom. So this was the first time that atom was coined for the smallest particle which forms a matter. All this was based on philosophical consideration and not much experimental work to validate these ideas could be done till the 18th century. By the end of the 18th century, scientists recognized the difference between elements and compounds and naturally became interested in finding out how and why elements combine and what happens when they combine. Anton L. Lavoisier laid the foundation of chemical science by establishing two important laws of chemical combination. So, Anton L. Lavoisier was the first scientist who laid the foundation of chemical science and stated two important laws. Those important laws were based on the laws of chemical combination. The first law that he proposed was the law of conservation of mass, which stated that when you mix two different materials or when you chemically combine two different materials, the new product has the same amount of mass that the reactant had in them. Here in activity 3.1 you can see there are two test tube X and test tube Y, and in certain test tube they have filled in one copper sulfate, that is 1.25 gram, and in next test tube they have filled sodium carbonate with 1.43 gram. Now they have arranged the apparatus something like this. The solution Y is in a conical flask while the solution X is in the test tube, which are not mixed with each other. That means still no reaction has taken place, and before they are mixed, their mass have been calculated and it comes to some extent. After the reaction, both the solution X and Y are mixed with each other, which forms a chemical compound, and its mass is also calculated. Now the mass of the reactant as well as the mass of the product is being considered, where you find that there is no difference in both the masses. This brings us to the conclusion that according to the law of conservation of mass, mass can neither be created nor destroyed in any chemical reaction. Then Lavoisier and Proust also considered another law of constant proportion. Lavoisier along with other scientists noted that many compounds were composed of two or more elements and each compound had the same element in the same proportion, irrespective of where the compound came from or who prepared it. They have given an example of water, which is the compound of hydrogen and oxygen. So the mass of hydrogen to the mass of oxygen in water is 1:8, whatever the source of water may be. You may get the water from any stream, any river, any ocean, even from your tap, so that from wherever water you get collected, you will have the same amount of hydrogen and oxygen in that compound of water. That shows that if 9 gram of water is decomposed, that means if 9 gram of water is separated, is electrolyzed to get hydrogen and oxygen, you will get 1 gram of hydrogen and 8 gram of oxygen. Similarly, in ammonia, nitrogen and hydrogen are always present in the ratio 14:3 by mass, whatever the method of the source from which it is obtained. This led to the law of conservation of proportion, which is also known as law of definite proportion. This law stated by Proust as in a chemical substance, the elements are always present in a definite proportion by the mass. The next problem faced by scientists was to give appropriate explanation to these laws. For that, British chemist John Dalton provided the basic theory about nature of matter. He picked up the idea of divisibility of matter, which was till then just a philosophy. So here also no experimental proofs were given. It was just a philosophy. But he took the name atom, just like the Greek philosopher Democritus has said. Also, his theory was based on the law of chemical combination. It provided an explanation for the law of conservation of mass and the law of definite proportion. According to his theory, all matter is made up of very tiny particles called atom, which participate in chemical reaction. Atoms are indivisible particles which cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction. Atoms of a given element are identical in mass and chemical properties. Means for hydrogen element, the atoms of hydrogen element are always same. They are identical in mass. They cannot be different and they compose equal chemical properties. Atoms of different element have different mass and different chemical properties. So if you compare hydrogen with oxygen, the atoms of hydrogen will have different properties and mass as compared to the atoms of oxygen. Atoms combine in the ratio of small whole number to form compounds. The relative number and the kind of atom are constant in a given compound. So these are the 6 postulates that Dalton stated in his atomic theory. Now let's study about atom. The example given over here to understand atom is about a building. If you see, a mason builds the building from small bricks. It makes a wall, from these walls a room, and then the collection of rooms forms a building. So that says the smallest particle to form the building was the brick. Also, in the same manner, the building block of an anthill is the small grain of sand. That means the building block of all matter are atom. That is the smallest part of any element. How big are atoms? They are very small, even smaller than we can imagine. So it has the radius of 1 nanometer in size, that is 1/10 of the meter. Here you can see the relative size in meter according to the atom of hydrogen. It is 10 raised to minus 10 and the apple that you see is 10 raised to minus 1. So this is the huge difference between the atom of hydrogen and an apple that you can literally see holding it in your hand. We might think that if atoms are so insignificant in size, why should we care about them? So this is a question, important question that keeps on coming in our mind. That if atoms are so small, why it has its importance in chemistry? It is because our entire world is made up of atoms. We may not be able to see them, but they are there and constantly affecting whatever we do. Through modern technique, we can now produce magnified image of surface of elements showing atoms. What are modern day symbols of atom of different elements? So now as we know atoms, we have to separate them with their specific symbols and with specific mass. So earlier Dalton, he was the first scientist to use the symbol of element in a specific sense. He used a symbol of an element that he also meant a definite quantity of an element. The one atom, that is one atom of that element. Berzelius suggested that the symbol of element be made from 1 or 2 letters of the same element. So Berzelius was the first scientist to suggest that for giving the symbol of an atom, instead of giving the symbol like this, a symbolic form, we have to consider the alphabets of that element. Just like hydrogen, they consider H as the symbolic form of atom. So in the beginning, the names of the element were derived from the name of the place where they were found for the first time. Just like copper, it was taken from Cyprus. Then they were also named after specific colors. Gold was taken from the English word meaning yellow. And IUPAC, the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, which is an international scientific organization, has approved names of elements, symbols and units, and it is now registered or considered worldwide by all the scientists. The first letter of the symbol is always written as a capital letter and the second letter as a small letter in the lower case. Just see the example of hydrogen. For hydrogen, they have taken H as it's the first initial of hydrogen. In aluminium, they have taken Al. Here, L is small letter and not a large letter like this. In cobalt, they have taken C as a capital and O as a small letter and not CO. Symbol of some element are formed from the first letter of the name and the letter appearing later in the names. The examples are chlorine, zinc, etc. Other symbol have taken from the names of element in Latin, German or Greek. The symbol for iron is Fe from its Latin name ferrum, sodium Na from natrium, and potassium K from kalium. Therefore, the element has a name and a unique chemical symbol. In table 3.1, you can see the elements with their symbolic form. Now, our next topic is atomic mass. What is atomic mass? The most remarkable concept that Dalton atomic theory proposed that was of the atomic mass. According to him, each element had a characteristic atomic mass. That means an atom has certain mass, but scientists did not have any instrument to measure that mass. The theory could explain the law of constant proportion so well that scientists were prompted to measure the atomic mass of an atom. Since determining the mass of individual atom was a relatively difficult task, relative atomic mass were determined. So, because we were not having any perfect instrument to measure the atomic mass, relative atomic mass were considered for experiment using the laws of chemical combination and the compound form. Let's take an example over here. For the compound carbon monoxide formed by carbon and oxygen, it was observed experimentally that 3 gram of carbon combines with 4 gram of oxygen to form carbon monoxide. So, in other words, carbon combines with 4 times of its mass of oxygen. Suppose we define the atomic mass unit abbreviated as AMU, but according to the IUPAC recommendation, it is now written as U as equal to the mass of one carbon atom. Then we would assign carbon an atomic mass of 1 U and oxygen as atomic mass of 1.33 U. So here you can see the decimal recurring fraction over here. That makes it a little difficult to consider the atomic mass in decimal units. However, it is more convenient to have this atomic mass as whole numbers or as near to the whole number as possible. So, initially, scientists took 1/16th mass of an atom for naturally occurring oxygen. This was considered on 2 reasons. First, oxygen reacted with a large number of elements and formed compounds. So, oxygen was found in most of the compound. It was easy to calculate the atomic mass of that compound. And the atomic mass unit gave masses of most elements as a whole number. So, when they took 1/16th as a mass of the atom of naturally occurring oxygen, most of their atomic masses were now whole number instead of decimal fractions. However, in 1961, for a universally accepted atomic mass unit, carbon-12 isotope was chosen as standard reference. So, still it was not confirmed about the atomic mass of atoms. So, they took another element, carbon-12 isotope, and its atomic mass was considered as a standard reference for measuring atomic mass. So, elements lighter than carbon-12 isotope will have low atomic mass, while atoms which are heavier than carbon-12 isotope were considered as having more atomic mass than carbon-12 isotope. One atomic mass unit is equal to exactly 1/12 the mass of one atom of carbon-12. So, this was now considered as a fixed unit for measuring atomic masses of atom. This was still a relative way to measure the atomic masses, not the fixed way. The relative atomic mass of all atoms have been found with respect to an atom of carbon-12 isotope. So, how does this atom exist in nature? Most of the elements are not able to exist independently. That means they are not free. They are always combined in any compound, or they are in molecules or ion form. These molecules or ion aggregate in large number to form matter that we can see, feel or touch. Thank you, children.